Alright, we'll see if this works again. Alright, it shows I'm live. Hopefully it doesn't suck as bad. Just let me know if it's still... Oh, good. Sweet. Yeah, dude, the internet here is just gnarly. And I'm forced to pay $150. So $150 for internet, and the internet is just awful. And so now I have it plugged in with the LAN, but I have to have a cord like stringed across my house, like across the hall. Like, give me a break. I don't want that. And they're like, just plug in the LAN. I'm like, oh, so I'm gonna have like cords just like strung across my house, like around the hallways and stuff, because the wireless internet like 15 feet away won't work. Like, the router's like right there. It shouldn't be that bad, but anyways, appreciate you bearing with me. Let's see if I can pull that up again. Boom. Alright, I'll try to keep this window open. Alright, so, geez, I don't know where I left off. Anyways, I guess so. Currently, what happens is, to run their machines, they have to sell most of their Bitcoin to run their machines, unless their machines are more efficient. Now, the more efficient machines actually take less power, and they can mine more Bitcoin with that less power. And so over time, because of the demand of Bitcoin, you have all of these... sweet. Thanks. Over time, you have all of these companies that are specifically making, that are allocating employees and time and effort, and buildings and manpower to create machines just to mine these cryptocurrencies, which is happening right now with pretty much every graphic card company or GPU company out there. And so over time, it all just kind of works out. And so all Bitcoin really is just a giant math problem. And so the nice thing is you would think, okay, so the halving happens, so now miners are getting half of the reward, and a lot of people won't be able to mine anymore. So you would think that the network a lot of the miners would go away, and there would only be a few miners left, which, and then it would become not as profitable over time, and over every 4 years you make half as much. So like back in 2017 when that happened, right, the miners got half as much as well. But obviously we know that didn't happen. So what ends up happening so really what drives the price down and what keeps the price not being as bullish as it could be, the number one contributor to that are miners, right? Because all the new Bitcoin that's being created right now is all done for miners. So, so that, let's see, how many Bitcoin are created in a day? So 12.5 times, so 1,800. So we make about 1,800 Bitcoin a day, right? So there's about 1,800, and times it's about 8,000 right now, right? We'll just say 8,600, 9,000, I don't know, whatever you want to put it. So that's $15 million a day of Bitcoin that's being created. Well, a big majority of this, probably 80% of this money, is probably going, so probably about 12 million of this money is going towards selling out. So about 12 million a day probably is miners selling their Bitcoin to pay for their machines. So what happens when the halving happens? Well, now half of the Bitcoin is going to get created, and the people that are mining at too expensive rigs are going to capitulate. And then what's going to be remaining are the people that have better machines that mine more efficient at lower power, and they're going to keep the network going. And so if you look, the hash rate doesn't actually do a dramatic drop. So if you look at the hash rate over time, it hasn't really done, when it drops, it rises up with Bitcoin. So as you see over time, the hash rate and the Bitcoin price pretty much correlate. Now, if something like Moore's Law didn't exist, then this couldn't exist, right? The machines that are mining Bitcoin right now did not exist 4 years ago. I mean, the machines that are mining it most efficiently, right? Pretty much 99% of the machines mining Bitcoin, none of them existed in any shape or form 8 years ago, right? So that's why a lot of people are bullish on Bitcoin, is because when the halving happens, then the selling pressure drops. Half the Bitcoin, gets put out there, and so it's easier for a bull market to happen. And so if you end up kind of zooming in on these days, on these halvings, you'll notice that the bull run didn't actually happen right when the halving happened. In fact, a lot of these miners want to hold on to the Bitcoin as long as they can, because they know that this is going to happen, and so they want to sell it over in this range, right, or this range, or this range if they could, but they can't hold on to it and be at negative profit for a year, or for 6 months, or something like that. So eventually, now some can, and you will see miners that are held on to their Bitcoin because they know it's going to explode in a year. And then once it hits like a 5x, 10x, then they start selling their Bitcoin 10% a week, or whatever makes sense at the time, right? And then you see even in this last halving, in fact, a little bull run happened up to it. And then it crashed right before the halving, and crashed through the halving, and then it took about 3 or 4 months for that, for the bull market really to pick up steam, and it's easy to look at a lot of this stuff in a, a lot of people are very short-term thinkers. In fact, Warren Buffett was asked if it was hard to be a billionaire, or something. I can't remember the question exactly, but his answer was being a billionaire is easy. Or no, he said becoming rich is easy. He said I know how to. He's like, I can teach people how to become rich. He said it's really easy. He's like, but I know how to be rich slow. He says. He's like, being rich fast, he's like, is really hard. And he's like, almost no one can do it. And pretty much no one can teach it, right? And so people are just impatient, and they want to get rich quick, right? And so, and even right now, like in what's going on in the stock markets, like forget about, Bitcoin and crypto altogether. There's tons of great companies that you could invest in right now in the traditional markets, right? I mean, Coca-Cola, right? Delta, Apple, like these are great buys right now. Amazon, right? Even though Amazon keeps reaching all-time highs, we have, they will keep, a lot of these companies are great buys, but they're not going to, they're not going to 2x in the next 5-10 years or something like that. And so people want to get those companies. They want to see the next Amazon. They want the next Bitcoin. They want the next this or that, which is harder. Not saying that they won't be able to do it, but it just takes a ton more effort and a lot more failures and whatnot. And then but if you look at these dates, I mean the first First bull run, it took almost an entire, it took like 3/4 of a year pretty much for that bull run to go from 17 cents to 31. And then it took 163 for it to go back down from 31 down to $2, right? And it's interesting. I mean, okay, so interestingly enough, I wasn't exactly sure when I first learned about Bitcoin, because I remember the conversation. I remember where it was because it was multiple conversations with two individuals, but I don't remember. I don't remember the exact dates. But I actually found an old this game I played, with a couple of my friends just to hang out with them pretty much online because we live in different states. We had conversations on that, and it was back in 2011 was when I was trying to find out about Bitcoin, and my friend told me about it like 6 months before that. So like pretty much right in this phase was when I heard about Bitcoin, and I was trying to buy it around the $30 range. In fact, this crash, I believe, was our first conversation, and I remember it was a long time ago, right? So, but I remember getting pissed off, and I was just like, this sucks. Like, I can't figure out how to buy it. I couldn't, I didn't know where to get it. I didn't understand like how to mine it. Like, I had to download the software. Like, it was all like, it didn't make any sense to me. But I had two friends, which now are pretty wealthy. One of them just bought an internet company. They were nerds, and so they had 2x4s in their garage, and they were screwed in, graphic cards, and they had wires just everywhere. And I remember just like looking at that, just being like, dude, I want to be a nerd. I want to nerd out. Like, that looks really cool to me for some reason. And I didn't really think Bitcoin was anything. I just wanted to be a nerd and have graphic cards and cords everywhere, and like be able to like internet. It was just like, it looked kind of cool, and that was my interest at the time. But anyways, and then I ended up learning about learning what Bitcoin was in the wrong way, and it didn't really make sense to me. I got taught Bitcoin was it was money that was being scrounged around the internet. Like, so when you do a transaction, there's like half a pennies or something like that that get lost on the web, and Bitcoin was able to find these lost transactions and accumulate these tiny little pennies, and it accumulates into a lot of money, and then they distribute that money monthly to its users. Right, that's how it was described to me the first time, and it just didn't make any sense to me in that way, and I was just like, I didn't know there was lost pennies in transactions or whatever, but I was like, well, cool, if I can end up buying a bunch of graphic cards, and then if it ends up not doing well, then I can just sell the graphic cards, right? But anyways, but yeah, and also why people are kind of freaking out is because the same pattern has happened the last two times, and has been happening in this last time as well. And that is, you have the bull market, which lasts quite a while. So the first bull market took 243 days. The second bull market took a year, right? And then the second bull market took 500 days. And then the first bear market, so after the bull market ended, the first one was 163. The second one was 408, and the third one was 365. Now you also have to understand Mount Gox hack date. It was June. So also, anyways, June 2011, a hack ended up taking place, which ended up helping this crash. So this crash is pretty dramatic. Well, pretty much 80% of every Bitcoin that existed got hacked, and somebody stole it. And so that happened during this bear market, and so it crashed a little bit quicker, more dramatic, in a shorter span than these other ones. But then, so the first one, right, we went from 17 cents to $31, then $31 down to $2, and then the accumulation was like $2 to 7. and then you have this expansion reaccumulation phase, right? And the first halving, it was $12, right? So it did take 4 years for it to go from 17 cents to $12, right? Now, obviously, that was the very first time it ever happened. So the second halving, the next two halvings that ended up taking place, or sorry, the second halving, the next two bull markets that ended up taking place, every single bull market, people knew what Bitcoin was more and more. And so I eventually got into it in 2016 and actually learned up on it and realized what it was, and then started becoming obsessing with it from like the entire 2017 year. But yeah, next bull market took a year for it to go from $12 to 1,100. And think about this, all of this as well with what happened in the last bull market, right? Went from $600 to 20,000, right? And a lot of people are like, that's never going to happen, right? It's never going to happen again, right? Like, that's such a crazy price rise. They said that right here as well, right? And so another reason why people are bullish, right? So bear market took 408 days, and it over a year, and imagine that. It was at $12, and then it went up again to $1,000, right? No way it's going to get $1,000, like $1,000 per coin that doesn't do anything, that nobody uses, and that was the case. Nobody used it. It had no utility. It was just like some nerd internet coin at the time, and it went from $12 to 1,000. It started crashing over the course of a year. So put yourself in that mind state as well, right? A token that has zero utility, that nobody knows anything about, internet nerd money, like, it went from $12 to 1,000, but nobody takes this coin anywhere except for like this one exchange or something like that, and over the course of a year, it's crashing. People are going to be like, yeah, of course it's going to keep crashing because it has no utility, it doesn't make any sense, like, right? And it crashed down from 1,100 down to $163 over the course of a year. And then it took almost another year for it to even see any price action. And then finally, when the next halving ended up happening, it ended up being at that 600 mark, right? So it went from 1,100 down to 163, right? And then it 3x from 163 over the next couple of years into the next halving. So people like to play that game of like, there's no way it can expand that much more. It's like, well, it did the first phase, it did the second, it's doing the same path of third, so I don't understand why. Now, I'm not saying it is going to, but you can understand how people could be bullish, right? And I'm hoping it will. I mean, to be honest, I want to accumulate as much as I can. I have no doubt that this is going to be a big thing, and that it's going to get up to the silver, gold, plus levels at least. So silver would be 3x, right? Gold would be a 70x from its current price. So, and because of its utility and what it can do and everything like that, I am one of those people. But who knows? It could end up crashing, quite a bit. If nobody adopts it, nobody ends up using it or wants to use it, then it can't go up forever. But once people actually start using it, and they get these companies, a lot of people like to make fun of Roger Ver, and maybe I'm one of those people sometimes, but he is pushing his product hard, and he's getting companies and big institutions involved. He's getting ATMs and gas stations. Like, he's getting the name out there, and that's what you need. We need people actually, once we get like Amazon being able to use it, but at any rate, I don't think it's going to take over the United States dollar. People that think that Bitcoin's going to be the new worldwide currency, I mean, it could be, but what I think it's going to be is, like, you have the euro, right? You have the peso, you have the United States dollar, you have the British pound, right? you're going to have all of these different currencies, and Bitcoin's going to be one of them, right? It's going to be one of the digital currencies that you can end up holding. But yeah. Anyways, the last halving that we ended up taking place. And by the way, these dates are different as well, because it depends on the blocks being mined. It depends on the miners. So the date changes all the time depending on how quickly we get to the point where it always is mined on certain blocks. So, but at any rate, last halving that ended up taking place was June 2016. Ended up taking, it was a bull run of 525 days. So when people think of bull run, they think of like, oh, it's going to be 20K tomorrow. Well, it could be 20K in 3 months. Do you think that would be a bull run? Of course it would be, right? A price more than doubles in 3 months. What about 12 months? Yeah, a price doubles within a 12-month span. That's bull run market, right? But a lot of people like to think, well, it needs to happen overnight, So and if they don't, and a lot of people don't want to get in, right? Because it goes up, $800, and then it crashes 1,200, then it goes up 600, then it crashes 300, then it goes up 800. So it's always doing this, like, it's never like goes up 6,000 and then drops down 400, then jumps up 3,000 and then drops down 500, and then drops up. It's not like it shoots up or anything like that. And so a lot of people have issues struggling this long-term mentality, right? And then we ended up hitting a little under 20,000, and then that bear market, ended up taking 365 days. In fact, yeah. So this entire year, in fact, this right here, if anybody doesn't remember that was Roger Ver and Craig Wright's the day that that Bitcoin Cash halved into or forked into a Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. That's when that drop ended up taking place. But yeah, even with this coronavirus thing, right? It didn't actually end up crashing us as bad as a lot of people thought it did or would, or I don't know. But we're back at the levels we were before, right? So yeah, that's. And here's the deal as well. Let's talk about CoinMarketCap.com. Jeez, I don't like using CoinMarketCap now that Binance owns it, but whatever. So the entire cryptocurrency market cap is only worth $233 billion right now. So I guess when people say, we've hit the bubble, and by the way, everybody describes this last crash. They compare it to the 90s.com bubble, and to me, it's not that comparable. It does. I do see some similarities. There's thousands of companies that have no utility, and they crashed, and it's a digital. They're all digital companies. So in that sense, but when the dot-com crash happened, there was this new really cool thing that helped a ton of people, which Bitcoin does for sure, but could help a bunch of people in unique ways, and just thousands of people were like, I have a unique perspective on how this technology could benefit the world, and everyone had their unique perspectives. I have a website that can do this, I have a website that can do this, oh, we can integrate that and that, and so they're doing all this stuff on the web. And it got to the point where none of these companies actually were doing what they said they were. Their visions were skewed. They weren't, and so it was all hyped up, and so all these companies crashed. And the ones that actually survived were the ones that actually built their company up the right way. The companies like Amazon, right? When Amazon was over $100 and it crashed like $4, $5, $6, something like that. Now it's over $2,000, right? And 20 years later, so people like to compare Bitcoin to that, but until I think we're one step before that. I think we're still in the step. We haven't yet found our AOL. We haven't yet found our Netscape that actually puts Bitcoin on the mainstream. And so I think we're right before the 90s.com, right? I think we're at the point now where where FTP and HTTPS and www, like all those protocols and all those, like all of everything that we use now for the web is being created. I think that's where we're at right now. Except back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, right, when all that stuff is being created and stuff, they weren't, you don't pay for every time you do a www dot whatever, you don't pay for that, right? Whereas Bitcoin, it was financed from the beginning. So I think since it was financed from the beginning, of course the price is going to fluctuate more because it's about money. And so if it was about money when the internet first started, then the internet's value would fluctuate as well, right? And so I think we're like before the 90s.com, I think we're in the late 80s. And we have the technology. Now we're just trying to like, and there's still problems with it, right? Bitcoin's still slow. It only handles 10 to 15 transactions per second, whether you're on the Lightning Network or not. It still consumes a lot of power. It still has a problem with it, a possibility of being centralized down the road if enough of the big companies that were holding they're holding these all these miners and everything. But I actually don't agree with that one either, because they own the machines, but there's actually, anyways, I'll get into that in another video. But yeah, Bitcoin does have some problems, but they're being worked on, they're being fixed, right? So we're not quite at the 90s.com, we're still in like the 80s, I believe. And so once we find our AOL, right? Once we find our Netscape, once we, and then we can find our Googles, and then we can find our, but there hasn't been a company that has actually, taken Bitcoin and made it where the masses use it, love it, it's easy. Bitcoin needs to be as easy as setting up an email address and sending an email to somebody. And the way it is right now, it just is not there. I hate dealing with my Trezor wallet. I was tweeting about that this morning. Every time I'm transferring money, so like for example, if I wanted to like throw half a Bitcoin on an exchange and then push it into like 10 altcoins and then remove those altcoins onto my Ledger device, that would take me all day, because the wallet only holds a few coins at a time. So I have to upload the coin, I have to upload the software on the coin, then I have to put the money on, and then I have to undownload the software on my project, and then if it's a Ethereum or if it's a Bitcoin, just depending on the project, it's done different way. It's just confusing unless you know what you're doing. And I had to do a bunch of Googling and research and YouTube video before I figured out how to use my Ledger properly, and I just know the people that are skeptical about Bitcoin, they don't want to deal with it, right? And if it was something as easy as like how Coinbase is right now, right? Coinbase, the reason why they capitalize is they're so freaking easy. You just download Coinbase, you put in your email address, you put in your credit card number and debit number, and you buy Bitcoin, right? So they made it so easy to buy Bitcoin and to sell Bitcoin, and then they just dominate the market, right? And so once we just need someone like that. So I think that's our next real bull run, is when we find someone who, an AOL, a Netscape, a something like that can make cryptocurrency adoption mainstream. Funny talking about AOL, because XRP, right? Brad Garlinghouse used to run AOL. But yeah, the entire crypto market cap is $233 billion right now. Bitcoin's $156 billion right now. So even if Bitcoin just got to be as big as Apple, as big as Google, as big as Amazon or something, just one company, the price would significantly increase, right? We have multiple. We have, I think, Apple and Amazon are now consistently over that $1 trillion mark, right? And then if you were to take, like I said, gold, market cap. I know how to spell. It's around 9 trillion. I think it's 8.8 right now. But gold currently is around. Oh yeah, I like this graph. Wait, let me go to this one. Dude, I hate how Google doesn't. And when you click the images, it takes you to the website. I don't want to go to the stupid website. I want to see a bigger image of this. Did I do that? No. Jeez. So yeah, put this. Well, we're over 41 billion now, but yeah, Bitcoin currently we're at 156 billion dollars. Oh wow, this is so old. Well, this is an old graph, but you can kind of see how Bitcoin's like right here, right? So we have a long ways to go. Gold right now is I think 8.8 trillion dollars, but even if we got to the same market cap as gold, right? Wait, 1,000 million billion. So we take $8.8 trillion and we divide it by 156,601,961,436, and it's 56x. So we would 56x the current price right now just to get to where gold's at. So 8,500 times 56, we're looking at $476,000. So that's why a lot of people are bullish, is because we still have a lot of room to grow and we still haven't even gained adoption yet. And it is a technology that makes a lot of sense. It's funny when I hear these gold bugs like a Peter Schiff. I actually watch a lot of Peter Schiff podcasts. He makes a lot of sense, but when he doesn't, you have to try to, when people are talking smack on something, there's a lot of them have a reason why, right? Peter Schiff has a ton of gold. His whole business is around gold. So if there's an asset that comes around that is, and if you guys don't know who Peter Schiff is, just look him up. He's pretty much like the cheerleader for gold. I actually like, there's a guy named Mike Maloney. I really like. He's actually really good. Oh my gosh, in fact, if you guys should check this out. This guy right here, he's a stud. This little series right here, it's a 10-part episode series. It is probably the best series I've ever seen in my life when it comes to understanding money, when it comes to talking about money. It's funny because I was watching this, and as I got to right at the beginning, I was like, dude, this guy needs to hear about Bitcoin. I want, and then all of a sudden, episode 8, he talks about Bitcoin. But he actually he loves Bitcoin as well. But he talks about Bitcoin and what Bitcoin is compared to gold. He's like, we have a physical gold. He's like, now we have a digital gold, and now he does talk about a couple of companies that whatever. When I first watched the video, I didn't even hear I've never heard of the company he was talking about before, but at any rate, it's a pretty good series to watch, and it kind of he gives a really good understanding of what money is, where it came from, how it, and then he also talks about how the economy crashed, how every single fiat currency that's ever existed has crashed, and it follows the same pattern, and how everyone can predict every economy's crash because they all follow the same exact thing, and he's predicted what's going on with our economy. He hasn't predicted the catalyst, but he has predicted the outcome, right? So if you haven't subscribed or watched this guy, you should definitely watch it. This guy's essentially this investor was screwing over his mother, and it was losing his mother money, and he got pissed off and he fired the guy and started learning about money himself, and then realized how shady everything was, and then became obsessed with it, and that's how he got into gold and silver and finances and stuff. But at any rate, so yeah, and the people that talk about anti-Bitcoin, and I do follow a lot of people that are anti-Bitcoin. just because you need to hear both sides of the aisle, and you can't be too invested into like one way of thinking. Like for example, XRP. That's a good example of being invested in one way of thinking. If you either like XRP or you hate it. There's no in between for people. This is either an amazing project or it's the biggest piece of crap that's ever existed. People have that, and it's like, how is that? It's just like people either love or hate Donald Trump. There's no like in between. There's like, he's all right, right? People have this like, and those like big hatred and love walls. There's like no in between. Anything that has that always interests me, just because it's like so much aggression and tension or whatever, and I don't know, but XRP is one of those, right? And it makes sense because XRP kind of is anti-crypto, right? It's taking the traditional financial markets and it's helping fix them a little bit. It's doing it in a very centralized way, though, which a lot of people don't like. And the way that XRP works anyways, it works as fast intermediary transactions. So essentially a bank holds a certain amount and then they never buy anymore. Because then the bank holds, let's say $1 billion worth. Well, someone does like a 500,000 transaction, it takes a split second, and then so they use XRP and then they put it so nothing's being held for very long. So it's not like, anyways, XRP is just kind of a funky currency, and people are like, you're the biggest idiot if you invest in it, and other people are like the exact opposite, right? So but I like to hear from both sides. I like to hear from the people that are calling the people not investing them idiots, and I like to hear from the people saying that if you are investing them, you're idiots, right? Just because you need to hear both sides of the perspective. But yeah. You know what? Let's talk about one more thing. Let's talk about Craig Wright. Crashing Bitcoin on halving date. I figure I could have find an article talking about it. He can't, yeah, whatever. Dude, this guy's so crazy. Dude, crypto is so interesting with this guy in it. I understand why a lot of people hate him, but it's just like, life is not boring with this guy. But having looms, right privilege, rises. No, that's not it. The Bitcoin price will crash below 1K in 2020. Yeah, whatever. I can't believe I can't find this article. Craig Wright tweeted, he is crashing Bitcoin on halving day. Wait, was this it? No. Starting to crash Bitcoin, support, yeah, whatever. Oh, this is another time he promised to crash it. Anyways, he essentially, in fact here, why did I just write it like that? If you go to this guy's page, he actually talks about it. Oh, you just made a video about it yesterday. Interesting. So I'm sure this one's the best one. I was gonna say it's one of his old videos. He talked about it a while ago, but yeah, probably just check out his video. But Craig Wright did. He claimed that he was going to dump that he was. So in case you don't know the situation with Craig Wright, let me kind of explain it. So Craig Wright claims he's Satoshi. He says he's the original creator of Bitcoin. Whether you believe him or not, that's what he's claiming. and he's essentially putting copyrights and patents on all this like code and stuff like that. So if anybody uses any of the code that's been used in blockchain technology or whatever, that he can sue them. Which is funny because you can't sue Bitcoin. I'm sorry. The United States government tried to shut Bitcoin down. The Chinese government on like 4 or 5 different occasions tried to shut Bitcoin down. 3 or 4 different occasions, right? You can't. Nobody can shut Bitcoin down anymore. Sorry. You'd have to EMP the entire planet, right? You can't shut down 1 million miners and spread across 100 plus, almost, I don't know how many countries, but a ton, right? Anyways, so Craig Wright claims that he's the original creator of Bitcoin, and he's been failed to prove it. He's been failed to prove it many, many, many times. In fact, he's been proven to be a fraud many times, but he always has an excuse, right? He always says someone hacked his computer, and and whether like he's just the unluckiest guy in the world or he's the biggest piece of crap in the world, you can make up your own mind or decision on that. But there's a big lawsuit going on right now with Dave Kleinman. So. So if you don't know who Craig Wright and Dave Kleinman is, geez. Anyways, they were business partners a long time ago. Dave Kleinman ended up dying, and Craig ended up taking all of their Bitcoin that they mined together, and now Dave's family is suing Craig for those Bitcoin. And the whole story is interesting because there's a lot of people saying those coins aren't even his, so he doesn't even have access to them whatsoever. So the whole court case is just a big joke. And then a lot of people are saying he is the real Satoshi, and so he's saying that he took. So originally there was like 1 million Bitcoin mined in the very beginning. And held in a wallet. It's been sitting in that wallet ever since. It's not been touched ever since. And you can access it, and you can look and see in that wallet right now. Everything's public on Bitcoin, right? And so Craig said that him and Dave sent the Bitcoin out to a courier, and the courier was not allowed to come back until January of 2020 to give him his keys. January 2020 came, and it didn't happen, and I can't remember his excuse. Why Craig Wright didn't get his keys in January 2020. Oh yeah, he says he received the keys, but he's waiting for something. Jeez. Anyways, so there's a lawsuit going on right now with him, and if he ends up getting those 1.1 million Bitcoin, then he says he's going to sell them all for Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, which is the real Bitcoin. And if you're going to sell 1.1 million Bitcoin, I mean, 1.1 million times 8,500, right? That's freaking $9 billion right now. So that would leave $9 billion outside of the market cap. And $9 billion doesn't mean 9 billion. It means... in case you didn't know that, it says 156 billion. This doesn't mean there's 156 billion dollars of Bitcoin being purchased. That just is the valuation currently. So if you sold 90 billion, the price could drop 90%, right? 95%. It could drop drastically. It could drop 80%. It doesn't mean it's just gonna, since it's 90 billion, it's pretty much half of this, a little more, but. Then the price is going to drop down to 4,000, right? The price could drop down to 400, right? So if that happened, it could devastate the price. And so he says that he's going to dump it on Bitcoin Halving Day, but a lot of people don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. So here's what I think about Craig Wright. Here's my conspiracy theory on Craig Wright and Satoshi and all that sort of stuff. So, I think... I don't think this for sure. I think that this is a possibility, right? And so I'm trying to figure out what the heck is Craig Wright is doing, because you have to understand. Okay, if Craig Wright really isn't Satoshi, then what the heck is he doing? Why is he doing all this stuff? Why is he like, And so I understand why he needs clout and credibility. That helps him make money when he's going around. Giving meetings and stuff like that. It helps him when he's trying to, if he's trying to integrate his BSV into a company or something like that. He can say, I'm the creator of all of this, right? So that clout kind of gives him some name or whatever. But when everybody's calling you a fraud and stuff, but he just keeps pushing it and pushing it. And so now he's known as like the biggest fraud in crypto. And it's like, you don't want that name on yourself. So it's like, so if you really were Satoshi would try to prove it, but he's saying, I don't need to prove it. He's like, that's on you. He's like, if you don't believe me, I don't care. He's like, and it's just like, it doesn't make any sense. And so here's my conspiracy theory of what could be happening. Dave Kleinman. Okay, also, when you look at the writings of Satoshi, you'll notice that the white paper writings and the forum board writings look like they may have been written by different people, but both the forum board writings and the white paper writings, if you were to do a stylometry, is that what it's called? Stylometry? That's not how I spell it. Yeah, so if you were to do a stylometry analysis on the writings, you would notice that the white paper and the forum board, they have different writing styles than Craig Wright. So if you look at Craig Wright's writing as well, he spells things wrong. He has different idioms. He has different slang. He always spells the same words wrong. So if you look at his tweets, you can download all of his tweets he's ever done. You'll notice he misspells the same words wrong, but in the white paper and the forums, he does not misspell those names wrong. So it's like, well, but then again, there could have been one person that wrote the white paper, one person did the forum boards, one person did the coding, one person, there could have been a team of like 15 people that created Bitcoin. We don't know who created Bitcoin. But it's just weird that there's so much evidence showing that he's a liar, and yet he keeps pushing the narrative forward that he is. So here's what I think could be a possibility. Dave Kleinman, his writing style very much matches those of Satoshi. Not completely, but really close. It's like 95%. So what could be a possibility is Dave Kleinman could be Satoshi. And Dave Kleinman mined those coins way back when, and Craig Wright was involved in the beginning for sure. So that like, we know that he was around in the beginning when Bitcoin was created, and we knew that he knew a lot of the key players as well, and was in communication with those key players before the name of Bitcoin was created. So I think Craig Wright knows Dave Kleinman created Bitcoin, and knows that nobody else created it, and nobody can prove they created it because he knows Dave did. So he's just going to say, well, Dave's dead. And he didn't tell his family he's Satoshi because it wasn't like a big thing back then. It was just like some fake internet name he used, and to create some nerdy stuff, and it wasn't, it did get bigger later on, but still, he may not have told his family. So Dave Kleinman could have been the real Satoshi. Then Dave Kleinman died, so the wallet has been inaccessible ever since. And now Craig is doing everything he can to access Dave Kleinman's wallet, because once he can access Dave Kleinman's wallet, now he can say, look, I moved money from Satoshi's wallet, so now I am Satoshi. That would be proof. If somebody could move money from Satoshi's wallet, that would prove that, that would be a really good proof that you're Satoshi, right? There's $9 billion in this wallet. I moved $15 out of it just to show you I could. So if you own $9.9 billion, and we know that was mined by the original creator of Bitcoin, then you're probably the creator of Bitcoin, right? And so I think that's the narrative he's trying to push. So I think he's in court right now trying to get a hold. I think he's trying to get a hold of something. I don't know. So the courier doesn't make any sense. I don't know why he's trying to get I don't know. Like, so maybe he found out Dave did the courier, and then he's trying to get that Dave's courier to himself, but it already. And if he has the coins right now, why is he still in court? I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. So who knows what's going to happen? But this is why this is why he's interesting. This is like a movie. This for sure 100% could be a movie, and a really interesting one. And I wouldn't be surprised if what was that Social Network movie, if they do a Bitcoin movie kind of like that. In fact, on that note, I'm just gonna end the stream here in a second, but I'll end it on this. A lot of people don't know what OneCoin is. OneCoin, I actually have family that was scammed by OneCoin. They were in network marketing. OneCoin was the biggest scam that's ever hit crypto. I mean, it was over $4 billion. So I don't know oh my gosh, it's been forever. What's that scammy? They promised like 1% gains a day. It had that orange logo. BitConnect, that's what it was. BitConnect. How much scam? 2.6. So the BitConnect, everyone thinks was the biggest scam that ever took place. Was $2.6 billion scammed. Well, the OneCoin scam was $4 billion worth, and the scam is still going on. It legit is a company that's still on right now. You can go to certain companies and they have offices, and they scam you, and it's just crazy. But the owner ended up leaving the country. They don't know. This is the owner right here. They don't know where she went. She left. I think it's her brother. She left her brother in charge, and she's just this billionaire that ditched and left everyone hanging. But anyways, they are making a movie about this, and I've been thinking about making a video about it, but there's not that much information on the internet. But I was actually like I met some very key players, and I went to a conference. I met this girl right here. I've met like the top earners of this company. I even went to breakfast with one, and oh my gosh, this guy just like emanated sleazy. And just meeting this guy, I just knew I hated the company and anything involved with it, just because he was a key player in the company. He was like, he had like 4 or 5 distributorships, and the distributorships were making like $80,000 a week. Like, he was making bank, but he just had this gross suit on, these like gold chains. He smelled just like like cologne, and just like he reeked of like douchebag, So, that's all I need to know, is just this guy was involved, and I didn't want to be involved in it. But anyways, I don't really know what else to say. I kind of went way off track. I end up doing that quite often. But tomorrow I am going to be streaming as well, just because it is the halving, and why not? But I also, oh yeah, I forgot. You guys get to see my newer, with all these little things, all this crap I added down here with like my Twitter handle and all this stuff. So for this stuff right there, my Twitch, I've decided. You guys like my moon wallpaper? Oh shoot, what is this? I'm actually seeing chat. I didn't know I could do that. I just discovered that I have a chat right here on my little screen. I didn't know I had that on there. Anyways, so Twitch down here, what I'm going to end up doing, I want to stream a lot more, but some of the streams, like, I just want to research a company. And when I research a company, sometimes I'm like, for an hour and a half, I'm just like clicking links, like reading LinkedIn descriptions, like trying to find their old company profiles of the company they worked in before, like really boring stuff. But a lot of people like want to see how I research a company, or sometimes they want to hop on and just chat, ask a question or whatever. So I want to be way more available, essentially. So I am going to be doing a YouTube every single Sunday, and I've decided on Twitch, I'm going to be doing live streams all the time. I don't even know. It'll be random, multiple times a day, sometimes maybe just once a week. I mean, I don't know. But if you do follow me on there, I just made the channel, so I don't even have a single subscriber yet. But if you want to, on Twitch, I'll just be researching companies, just doing whatever I would be doing when it comes to crypto, and I'll just do it live. And that way, if anybody has any questions or anything like that, I'll be more in contact. Whenever the bull run happens, there's a problem in the amount of shady fake companies out there. In fact, Google, they bypass Google somehow. So there's a lot of really good company channels, being like the ones I actually showed you on the stream. They're removing a ton of their videos. So like, if I made a video, for instance, and I said, hey, OneCoin is a Ponzi, it's a scam, I know 6 people that have lost over $400,000 accumulatively because of this one project. I have proof of it. I don't want you guys to be hurt. Please be careful. If I made a video like that, OneCoin would put it up as I'm being harmful to their brand, and then YouTube would take it down and they'd strike my channel. So that's what's happening on YouTube right now. So if you expose people for being shady and ripping people off and scamming people and doing illegal projects, if you notify the public via YouTube, those scammy companies have tons of bots that report you, and then you end up getting banned. And I know people that have 80,000 subs. I don't know them, but I've on Twitter I follow them, and I've seen multiple people lose their entire channels because of these little scammy whatever. So so I am going to be doing a lot of that stuff on Twitch because on Twitch that doesn't end up happening. But yeah, so follow me on Twitch if you want, and then Skyscraper Crypto. This my Twitter handle, I'm on there all the time. So if you ever have a question, or you'll be able to contact me on there, and I'll reply more immediately than anything else. So but yeah, I guess I'll end the stream there. If you guys do have any questions, hit me up. And yeah, I'll be on tomorrow. I'm not sure when I'm going to be on tomorrow, but I'll live stream something just because the halving and all that jazz. I already told my I told my work that I wasn't working. They tried to explain why, and they didn't they didn't understand. They're like, wait, they're like, it's a holiday? I'm like, well, it's not really a holiday, but it's kind of a holiday for people that invest in Bitcoin. And they're like, what's the holiday? I'm like, well, people aren't earning as much Bitcoin as they were before. And they're like, and that's a good thing? Well, I mean, kind of it's a good thing, but do you have 45 minutes to sit down and have this conversation, or can I just have Monday off, right? It was just kind of funny. Nice thing is, actually, I work at a job where I just tell them when I'm not working, and they're okay with it. As long as I do my job, they let me do whatever I want. I'm very blessed in that area, and I work from home a lot of times. And a lot of my cool YouTube setup, my boss ended up buying for me because he wants my online stuff for work to be cooler. So he's like, yeah, let's buy cool stuff. But anyways, appreciate you guys being on the stream, and I will see some of you tomorrow. If not, I'll see the rest of you on Sunday. And yeah, thanks everyone. If you could leave a like and subscribe, by the way, that definitely helps the channel. And if you guys don't know, all my proceeds go to charity, so every like and subscribe absolutely goes a long way. But appreciate it. Take care. All right, thanks. Bye.